Welcome to Two Witness Teaching Program. Two Witness, a Bible teaching program to change and transform people. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's dive into it.
Said to me, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and come up to me in the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. And so God then gives the 10 commandments again to him on tables of stone, which he brings down, places in the ark. Verse 6, the children of Israel took their journey from Beeroth of the children of Jaachan to Moserah. There Aaron died, and he was buried. And Eleazar his son ministered in the priest office in his stead. From thence they journeyed unto Ggodah, and from Ggodah to Jotbath on the land of rivers of water. At that time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister unto him, and to bless in his name unto this day. Again, Levi has no part or inheritance, and we read throughout Numbers, because Levi has no inheritance, the other tribes need to be mindful of continuing to provide for them. And that was done through the tithe, was one way that provision was made for the Levites. Verse 10, I stayed in the mount according to the first time 40 days and 40 nights, and the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also, and the Lord would not destroy thee. So again, Moses pled on their behalf, and the Lord heard him and spared them. Verse 11, the Lord said to me, Arise and take thy journey before the people, that they may go in and possess the land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them. And now, Israel, now, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. This is all that's required of thee. Obey God. Behold, the heaven and the heavens of heavens is the Lord's thy God, the earth also, with all that therein is. Only the Lord hath a delight in thy fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Verse 16 gives us a type and a shadow of the spiritual to come. Circumcise, therefore, the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked. So circumcision was a physical sign of the covenant, and we know in the New Testament, the circumcision of the heart is the spiritual sign that we're born again. For the Lord your God is a God of gods, the Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and a terrible, which rewardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless and the widow, and loveth the stranger, in giving him food and raiment. Love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave, and swear by his name. He is thy praise, and he is thy God. He hath done for thee these great and terrible things which thine eyes have seen. Thy fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons, 70 people, and now the Lord thy God hath made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude.
Chapter 11 is the last chapter in our section we call the Moral Laws of God, and we get more statements that God says, you must love my word, you must keep my word. If you do, then you'll be blessed. If you don't, you'll be cursed. He says it over and over again, so there's no confusion on the matter. Verse 1, Therefore thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his judgments, and his commandments always. And know ye this day, for I speak not with your children which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, and his miracles, and his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and unto all his land. And what he did unto the army of Egypt, and unto their horses, and to their chariots, and how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them, as they pursued after you. and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day, and what he did unto you in the wilderness until ye came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and the sons of Reuben, how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and all their substance that was in their possession in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord which he did. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day. Why? That ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land, whither ye go to possess it. And why? That ye may prolong your days in that land, which the Lord sware unto your fathers, to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey. For the land whither thou goest in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where ye sowed thy seed, and waterest it with thy foot, as the garden of herbs. But the land whither ye go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven, a land which the Lord thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even to the end, saying it's a really blessed land. And verse 13, it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. And I will send grass in the fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. But take heed to yourself, that your heart be not deceived, and ye be turned aside and serve other gods and worship them. Because if you do this, the Lord's wrath will be kindled against you, and he'll shut up the heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these words in your heart and in your soul. What's going to keep you from going astray? Keep God's word in your mind always and in your heart. And bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, and that ye shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when thou sittest down, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. God's word is always in your heart and your mind, and you're talking about it continually all day long, from the time you get up to the time you go to sleep. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house and upon thy gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. For if ye shall diligently keep all these commandments which I command you, to do them, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and cleave unto him, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. But it's an if-then situation. God's expecting something from them. Then he'll act on their behalf. 24, every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours. From the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall be your coast. There shall no man be able to stand before you. For the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that ye shall tread upon, as he said unto you. Behold, I set before you this day two things. You can have blessing in your life, or you can be cursed. Okay? And he's going to leave the decision up to them. A blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day. But you'll be cursed if you will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God. But you turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee in unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim and the curse upon Mount Ebal. And the reference for this is Joshua 8:33, that they actually did this. Half the tribes went on one mount and proclaimed the blessing of the Lord, and half the tribes went on another mount and proclaimed the curse that would come upon them if they didn't keep God's word. Verse 30, are they not on the other side of Jordan by the way where the sun goeth down in the land of the Canaanites, which dwell in the Champaign, which means desert, over against Gilgal, beside the plains of Morah? For ye shall pass over Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you, and ye shall possess it and dwell therein. And ye shall observe to do all the statutes and judgments which I set before you this day. Now, to think that something was unconditional with Israel, I don't know how someone could think that. He says, you'll be blessed if you obey me, you'll be cursed if you do not. So
all those blessings and cursings are going to lead up to the very familiar chapter of Deuteronomy 28, 68 verses of blessings and cursings. But you need to know that those are mentioned many times in Scriptures, not just that one place. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 12 through 16, we're going to see Moses reviewing the ceremonial law of God. Verse 1, these are the statutes and judgments which you shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it all the days that you live upon the earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations that ye shall possess served their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills, and under every green tree. You shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire. You shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. You shall not do so unto the Lord your God. Remember, we read twice already that God says, I'm a jealous God. I am not going to share your loyalties with another God. So when you go into this land, any place that a heathen nation worshipped their God, you need to destroy. If it's a high place, a grove, a tree, whatever it is, destroy it, and even destroy the names of them. Verse 5, this is what God says he's going to do instead. Unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. Don't go to where they worshipped their gods. You go to the place that I choose, where I'm going to put my name. That's where you'll come. And there ye shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithes and heave offerings of your hand, and your vows and your freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. And there ye shall eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hand unto, ye and your households, wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. You shall not do after all the things we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. For ye are not yet is come over to your rest, to the land, to the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. But when you go over Jordan, and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow unto the Lord. So there will be a place that, remember, God is leading them by fire, by the cloud. He meets with Moses and Aaron, or now Eleazar, in the tabernacle. And there's going to be a time when God says, now the tabernacle is going to dwell here. And I believe that place is Shiloh. And so when the tabernacle becomes set up there, that's where the people will come. But we're going to find out that that's not the only place that God was going to cause his name to dwell, but that was the place that the people knew they could come. They don't go worship God in the places the heathen nations worshiped their gods. They come specifically to where God commands them to. Verse 13, take heed to yourself that you offer not your burnt offering in every place that you see, but in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes, there thou shalt offer thy burnt offering, and there shalt thou do all that I command thee. Notwithstanding, you may kill and eat flesh in all your gates, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, whatever you desire, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the roebuck, as of the hart, only ye shall not eat the blood, ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. So any clean animal that's non-sacrificial, like the deer and the antelope, things that they were hunting for their own food, those can be eaten by anyone, anywhere, in any of their cities, towns, or villages. But when it's the sacrificial offering, that needs to be brought to the place where God has placed his name. 17, you may not eat within thy gates the tithe of thy corn, or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or the firstlings of thy herds or thy flock, nor any of the vows which thou vowest, nor thy freewill offerings, or heave offerings of thine hand. But you must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands to do. So whatever was set aside as their first 10%, the tithe of all of their flocks and all of their crops, they were to bring those to that place God had designated, and there, who does it say eats the tithe? It says they eat the tithe. They take part of it with their household and also with provision for the Levite. So that's something you don't quite hear today. I think you'll hear on the TV preachers saying, bring your tithes into the storehouse, and oh yeah, I hold the key. But this says, you bring your tithe here and you eat it. So we're going to see a lot of the intricate laws here of the tithe. It gets a little bit complicated, and it'll be interesting to get into. 20, when the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border, as he hath promised thee, and thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longeth to eat flesh. Thou mayest eat flesh, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. If the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from thee, then thou shalt kill of thy herd and thy flock, which the Lord hath given thee, as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gates whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. Even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten, so shalt thou eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat them alike. Only be sure that you eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the blood. Thou shalt not eat it, thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water. So here's a provision for someone who lives way up country. Because the borders have been so far enlarged, it's too far for them now to bring their clean animals to that place God has designated. And so God makes provision for that. He said, you can eat this in your gate just as you eat the other clean animals, the antelopes and the gazelles and the deer. Verse 25, thou shalt not eat it, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. Only the holy things which thou hast and thy vows thou shalt take, and go to the place which the Lord shall choose. And thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, upon the altar of the Lord thy God, and the blood of thy sacrifices shall be poured out upon the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt eat the flesh. So they were still going to make the holy sacrifices. Anything else they could eat wherever they wanted. 28, another exhortation. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee forever, when thou doest that which is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them and dwell in their land, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, How did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. So it says to beware of this. They were already told to destroy the gods, destroy the images, destroy the places. Don't be enticed into wanting to learn how they actually worshipped them and begin to do it yourself. 31, thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God. For every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it.
Chapter 13 begins with a warning to the people for those who might lead them astray, saying they had a new vision or a new dream. And we have this in the Bible school in the Dreams and Visions teaching, where I'm sure this plays a major part, this verse here, these verses. And Moses is warning them against someone who comes along and tries to get them to think and believe something new that's not in line with the word they've already received, because this word is going to be what we use to measure it. Even today, someone comes up and says, I had a dream. Let me tell you, brother. And, it was about me and it's about you, and it's going to show you how your life's going to go. Okay, let me hear it, and I'm going to be right there measuring and putting this verse up to it, putting this verse on it. I'm going to see, does that fit what God says in his word? And that's how we're to measure these things, because not everyone who says they have a dream from the Lord has a dream from the Lord. We need to watch out for that. And the responsibility falls on us to test what they're saying. Chapter 13, verse 1, If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God proveth you, or he's testing you through this to see, are you going to love him? Do you know, and to know whether ye love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul? Ye shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. How? By relying on his word. Say, I'm not following that guy. He's leading people astray. I'm sticking to God's word, what he's already revealed in his word. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage. You belong to him now, to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God hath commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. And if thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or thy wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, Let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shalt thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him, but thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. And how many people have this kind of mindset, that they love God even above their closest friend, even above their husband or their wife or their own children? But that's putting God first, and that's what he requires, not this watered down thing that people think today. And that there's people that are holding up their children in sins. It's just terrible, but they choose to make their children feel better about the sins that they're in rather than to serve God and stand up against it. And God's saying, stand up against it. You're not helping those people. Even if they were to repent and die, it would be better for them than for you to let them go down that path. Verse 10, and thou shalt stone him with stones that he die, because he has sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this among you. So this will be a deterrent. God says these things, death penalty for wickedness, is a deterrent. It doesn't matter if man and their liberal philosophy says, no, these things don't deter. God says it does. I believe God. I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible. I believe what God says. Death penalty is a deterrent. Verse 12, if thou shalt hear say in one of thy cities, which the Lord thy God hath given thee to dwell in, saying, certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go out and serve other gods, which ye have not known. Then shalt thou inquire, and make search, and ask diligently. And behold, if it be true, and the thing is certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly. If part of your own people turn away, serve other gods, you got to cut them off, get rid of them. And all that is therein, and the cattle thereof, with the edge of the sword. And thou shalt gather all the spoil of it in the midst of the street thereof, and shalt burn with fire the city, and all the spoil thereof, every whit, for the Lord thy God. And it shall be a heap forever, it shall not be built again. And there shall cleave naught of the cursed thing to thine hand, that the Lord may turn away the fierceness of his anger, and show thee mercy, and have compassion upon thee, and multiply thee, as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, when thou shalt hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep all his commandments which I command thee this day, and to do that which is right in the eyes of the Lord thy God.
Chapter 14 is going to again remind them of the clean and unclean animals, and then go into some more details on the tithe. Verse 1, you are the children of the Lord your God. Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. So no shaving of your forehead or your eyebrows to mourn for the dead. What I read was that was a pagan ritual that some of the other nations did. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth. Verse 3, thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. And that goes on through verse 20 again, listing what's clean, what's unclean, what they can eat, what they can't eat. Verse 21, ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it to the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. Or you may sell it unto an alien, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. So I think that's interesting. Animals they can't eat, they're allowed to sell to a stranger to eat. Okay, 23. Here we get into the tithe. 22. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of the corn, of the wine, of thine oil, of the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. Who eats their tithe? They do, with provision for the Levites. They're eating their own tithe. 24, and if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. So if it's too far to go with all these goods, then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And what do they do with the money when they get there? You shall bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, whatever you desire, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household, and the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance. So if it's too far, you turn your tithe into money. You take the money to that place, you buy whatever you want, and then you eat it there. At the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shall lay it up within thy gates. So every 3rd year you get to keep your tithe. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. You want to comment on the tithe?
Not particularly.
Okay.
But I do have a verse. You want to talk about tithe? Go ahead.
I just think the law of the tithe here is amazing because this is not what we hear taught in the churches. We hear tithes, 10%, bring it into the storehouse to provide for God's people, which is basically whoever's holding the microphone. And then, there's your offerings. You have to bring extra. So there's your tithes, there's your offering. It's basically all going to me, and I'll do whatever I decide to do with it. When really we see the tithe was provision not only for the Levites, but for the stranger, the fatherless, the widows, and also for the people themselves. Why were they giving it? It was to show their gratefulness to the Lord because the Lord has blessed them. Here's the top 10%, the very best of everything the earth gave me this year, the very best of what my flocks and herds gave me. And I'm dedicating this to the Lord to show my gratefulness and to show forth His glory, not my own. And so that was for them to consume with the Levite and the others. It's beautiful.
I'd also like to comment on verse 26. Thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, and that should it would be better fitting for us to say whatever you wish or whatever you desire. This is usually lust as we associate with something bad. But you can spend that money on oxen or sheep or for wine or for strong drink. Now that looks like, wow, how do you get out of that? God just said, go get yourself smashed, if that's what you feel like. Not so. And the reason there is the word wine, there is no grape juice or juice, the word juice in the Bible. It's not there. There's one word for either grape juice or wine, what we call wine now, and that was wine. If you go back to the Hebrew, you'll see at least 3 different words that's used for either grape juice or wine. I'm using that word as we use it today, grape juice or fermented grape juice. And you have to understand it by the context, by what is being said. And God expressly forbids the drinking of alcoholic beverages. And you know, in the verses that say that, it's very clear where He says, don't drink it. You'll be sorry. It's going to hurt you. It's going to cloud your judgment. You'll do things you shouldn't do. It's not right. And then you'll see times when He says, go ahead and drink. Enjoy it. You know, this is what I blessed you with. And by context, we can know which is the right meaning. God's saying, this is the juice of the grape that you can drink. But it's not fermented. It's not going to cloud your judgment. It's not going to be a temptation for you to do things you shouldn't do. And in this case, where it says for wine, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, it's yayin. That's the word that was interpreted wine there. It's used to mean fermented drink or not. And here it must be not. And also the next phrase, which looks like it could be something stronger, like liquor of some kind, or for strong drink. That word strong does not have a word for it behind it in the Hebrew. That there's one word that means that they've interpreted strong drink. So strong doesn't belong there. It's drink. And in the New King James it says, or similar drink. So it is grape juice or similar drink. You know, from the fruit of the land that you have, what you've got from that, you know, enjoy it. Or go and buy it. If you don't have it, go and buy it and enjoy it. That's God's blessed you with it. For an example, I believe the Lord revealed this to me. By context, let me show you a word that we use in our own vocabulary that will illustrate this. This Bible study was so heavy, and I had studied so hard, and I'm just worn out. I think I'm going to stop on the way home and get a drink. Maybe I shouldn't use Bible study. But our work was so hard, I'm going to stop for a drink on the way home, okay? By the context, you'd say, oh, I know what he's talking about. He's talking the way the world talks. He's going to go get something to ease his nerves, so that he feels comfortable. And we know what that is, some kind of drug-induced peace or a feeling. And I can use that drink in another way, and you wouldn't think it at all. Say, I've been out jogging, and I'm sweating, I'm hot. Boy, I could really use a drink. But you don't think, boy, that guy wants a shot of whiskey. That would really hit the spot. No, it's by context. The word drink means something very different on how I use it. It conveys a lot of meaning just by how I use it. And so then if you see that the word wine could mean either one, it's how I'm using it that gives you the meaning. Just like the word drink. So that is not there to encourage us to get smashed and cloud our judgment and do things that God wouldn't have us to do. It's when it's encouraged that you drink wine and enjoy it. It's a good thing. It's the juice of the grape or a similar drink. We're saying other juices that you can have and enjoy. And you got to think about this too. You know, they don't have Coke, they don't have Pepsi, they don't have other things. I mean, they have more natural things, and they have juices is what they would enjoy. And so it's not bizarre to think that God says to enjoy these juices, these fruit juices, and he's telling them enjoy bread. Okay, how many of us get happy? Woohoo, bread! I love bread. Okay, well, yeah, it's good. Enjoy what you have to eat, enjoy what you have to drink. But he's not saying go get smashed. That's a liberal interpretation that unfortunately it's so pervasive that you won't find it hardly anyone to teach it this way. In fact, almost all the Bibles that you'll see and you'll read, it'll be wine, and there won't be any mentioning that wine could be either or. And even if you go to Strong's, you'll see Strong's pretty much continually says that it's alcoholic. But it's impossible, because that word wine, as I mentioned earlier in class, I don't think this was recorded, but it's also said that wine comes right out of the grape, and that couldn't be true. That would have to be the word wine being used as juice. So that's the truth of that. We don't want to encourage people to get drunk, and God discourages it. And there's no moderation. Moderation is not used in the Bible in regard to drinking. It's don't do it. You'll be sorry. And again, we're not trying to become the alcohol police. If I see it in your fridge, I probably won't mention it. But you know what? This is a place where we're here to learn, and we know to what God would have us to do all individually. And I have to state it the way God would have it to be, and to challenge you to live where He wants you to live. And that's what I believe to be true, and I can't say anything else. And that's where we all should be growing to. And that's my chapter, right? Chapter 15. Verse 1. At the end of every season, at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release, or forgiveness of debt, that occurs every 7 years. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother thine hand shall release. Save when there shall be no poor among you, for the Lord shall greatly bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. Only if thou carefully hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all these commandments which I command thee this day. If you'll keep all His words, you'll be so blessed. You might not have any poor among you. Then don't worry about the releasing of debt. But every 7 years, I'd like you to release people from their debt so that people can get a new start again. Verse 6, For the Lord thy God blesseth thee, and He promised thee that thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow. Thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over thee. This is not to say that it's forbidden to you to borrow, but God will bless you so much that why would you borrow? You have everything. Verse 7, If there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, nor shut thine hand from thy poor brother, but thou shalt open thy hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wanteth. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, It's the 7th year, the year of release is at hand, and thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest him naught, and he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be sin unto thee. So don't think the next year is the year debt's released, so I won't lend to my poor brother. Verse 10, Thou shalt surely give him, and thine heart shall not grieve when thou givest unto him, because that for this thing the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thy works, and in all that thou puttest thine hand to prosper, or put thy hand to. For the poor shall never cease out of thy land. Therefore I command thee, saying, Thou shalt open thy hand wide unto thy brother, to the poor and to the needy in thy land. And if thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go for free from thee. And when thou sendest him out from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty, but thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress. Of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondsman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee this thing today. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, because he is well with thee, then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear into the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. It shall not seem hard unto thee when thou sendest him away from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee, in serving thee 6 years. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou doest. So here's saying, do the right thing in your business deals, and then even in this, what I'm telling you to do. If you obey God, business deals that God's telling you to do that doesn't seem like they would work out, they'll work out for you. Let them go. Let your servant go. Even let him go with some of your goods. God's seeing. God will reward you because why? You're keeping his word and his command. Verse 19, and all the firstling males that come of thy herd and of thy flock thou shalt sanctify unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy bullock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. Thou shalt eat it before the Lord thy God year by year in the place which the Lord shall choose, thou and thy household. Okay, you're not going to offer anything with a blemish. And you're not going to eat blood, but you pour it out on the ground, again, in reverence to God. He says it over and over again. Life is in the blood. That's what I require. You don't eat or drink the blood.
So go fast. Chapter 16, he's going to recount the feasts again, beginning with the Feast of Passover. Verse 1, remembering that God had brought them forth out of Egypt by night. Down in verse 10, thou shalt keep the Feast of Weeks unto the Lord thy God. And then verse 13, thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. So these are the 3 feasts he's referring to here. In verse 16, he says, these are the 3 times in the year that all thy males should appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. So these were the 3 times that they actually had to go to. In the New Testament, we think of it as Jerusalem, right? Christ was crucified in the Feast of Passover when everyone was coming to the city because it was commanded. That was one of the 3 times that they had to appear before the Lord or come to that place, one of the 3 times in the year. Verse 18, judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, throughout all thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. So judges are appointed here. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Don't stretch it or bend it. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live, and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And then 20 and 21, back to a familiar topic. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make. Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which the Lord thy God hateth. The groves were so much attached to the heathen worship of the other gods that he said, don't even plant trees near my altar. Keep it totally separate.
Chapter 17, which begins what we classify as the civil laws of God for Israel. Thou shalt not sacrifice unto the Lord thy God any bullock or sheep wherein is a blemish or any ill-favoredness, for that is an abomination unto the Lord thy God. We're going to give our best. Verse 2, if there be any found among you within any of the gates which the Lord thy God giveth thee, a man or a woman that hath wrought wickedness in the sight of the Lord thy God, and transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, either the sun, the moon, or the host of heaven, which I have not commanded, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and you inquire diligently, and you find out that it is true, and the thing is certain, that such an abomination is wrought in Israel, then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man and that woman, and shalt stone them with stones till they die. Verse 6, this is God's checks and balances. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. The hands of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterward the hands of all the people. So thou shalt put the evil away from among you. Verse 8, if there arise a matter too hard for thee to judge, between blood and blood, between plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within thy gates, then shalt thou arise and get thee up into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and then you'll call upon the priests, the Levites, and unto them that judge that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. And thou shalt do according to the sentence which they of that place which the Lord shall choose shall show thee, and thou shalt observe to do all that they inform thee. According to that sentence, that's what you're going to do. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to move to the left hand or the right. Verse 12, and that man that will do presumptuously and will not hearken unto the priest that standeth to minister there before the Lord thy God, or unto that judge, even that man shall die, and thou shalt put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear and fear, and do no more presumptuously. And this you could link back to Deuteronomy 12:8, when it was said that they thought to do what's right in their own eyes. No, you're not allowed to do that. But you have to do what's right in God's eyes, and He's established people in place. He's saying them follow their judgment. Verse 14, when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shalt possess it, and shalt dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. Okay, so God will tell you who will be king in the day that you say you want a king. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. And this person, he shall not multiply horses to himself. So he's not going to be greedy and build up some empire for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt. Now these are all things that God intends for their leader to be like. This is not how it turns out. This is God's desire, God's requirement for a leader. And so when a leader's reading this, they say, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. To the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself. And we see this problem with Solomon, that his heart turned not away. That's exactly what happened with Solomon. He married strange wives, and they turned his heart away from God. He built temples unto these strange gods. Neither shall he greatly multiply himself silver and gold. And we see that as part of Solomon's problem as well. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that this is what he will do, he shall write him a copy of this law in a book of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life. Why? So that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and that he will keep all the words of this law and these statutes, and that he will do them. That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in the kingdom, he and his children, in the midst of Israel. So this is forethought on God's part, saying, when you desire to have a king, this is the kind of king you should have, and here's my instructions to that king. So even when they're reading the law, they can see how they're supposed to act.
In verses 1 and 2 of chapter 18, they're reminded that the Levites have no inheritance. In verse 3, this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them that offer a sacrifice. Whether it be ox or sheep, they shall give unto the priest the shoulder, the 2 cheeks, and the maw, which all I could determine was the stomach. The first fruit also of the corn, the wine, the oil, the fleece of thy sheep shalt thou give him. For the Lord thy God hath chosen him out of all thy tribes to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. And if a Levite come from any of thy gates out of all Israel where he sojourned, to come with the desire of his mind unto the place which the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before the Lord. So if a Levite goes to that place, he's been given permission by God to stay there and to serve. They shall have like portions to eat, they share with the other Levites, besides that which cometh of the sale of his patrimony. Whatever belonged to him individually, maybe he had received from his fathers, will continue to belong to him, but everything else he shares in with the Levites. Verse 9, when you are come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, that was child sacrifice, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out before thee. What's the answer? Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God, entirely obedient. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God has not suffered thee to do so. You're not allowed. Verse 15 is the prophecy of Christ. The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. And I'll give you New Testament references for that. Acts 3:22. Acts 7:37. Acts 3:22 and 7:37, the writer is referencing this, referencing Christ and saying, here's a prophet that has risen up like Moses. 16, according to all that thou desirest in the Lord thy God in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I die not. And the Lord said to me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command them. So here's continuing of this prophecy. It shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. He will answer for it. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. But if the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him. So this goes back to chapter 13, when we talked a little bit about prophets and how to test and know if it's a true or a false prophet. We should stop here.
And we're not so far from a very high-profile thing that happened at the Y2K experience. We had all kinds of people prophesying what's going to happen, and none of it happened. You know, the financial world didn't collapse. Christians weren't buying houses penny on the dollar. And what happened to all these people? They just stopped saying those things. They forgot about it, and we move on. But that is the sign of a false prophet, according to the Scripture. I wouldn't want to sit under their ministries and listen to them. They weren't hearing from God about that. At least I'd be very cautious, because what they said did not come to pass. And too many people just give a complete blank check to people they see on. They got big ministries. Maybe they have a plane. Maybe they have a big house. Maybe they have a big church. But if what they say doesn't come to pass, they're not a prophet from the Lord. They're just managing to weasel out time after time again, just saying something to tickle people's ears and get the money rolling in.